Hey everybody, I hope and pray that you're doing well today as we come to our word from the word. And today that word is retell. Retell. Now, not retail, but retell. We're not trying to sell anything. We're trying to pass on the information that we already know and hold dear to in our own hearts and lives. That's what we need to pass on to others. And that's what you see in Psalm 78 today. And this is the longer psalm that we'll look at this week. But as I said at the beginning of the week, I encourage you to read all five of these each and every day. You kind of get, even though separate accounts, separate songs and prayers, it still is telling one story this week. And so the retelling are the things that we need to share. So let's just jump right in and see what the psalmist says here in Psalm 78, looking at the first four verses. He says, "Give ear, O my people, to my law. Incline your ears to the words of my mouth. I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings of old, which we have heard and known, and our fathers have told us. We will not hide them from their children, telling to the generation to come the praises of the Lord and his strength and his wonderful works that he has done." Now, you look throughout this psalm, you're going to see plenty of times. It's a nice little history lesson of what had taken place with Israel. It's got the good, the bad, and the ugly. And it kind of hits the high notes. Times where God did one thing and the people disobeyed, and God continued to be merciful. And then at the times that God did pour out judgment, he was still merciful even in his judgment. But the point of the matter is he's retelling to the next generation. And you see this, and I've alluded to it before, that in Judges, you have that over and over, a generation came up that did not know the ways of the Lord. Right? And that's what's wrong in our world today is we can blame the generation that's here all we want, but the problem is that the generations, not just my generation, hasn't done a good job of teaching children about God. And maybe the generation before me didn't do a great job about telling us and about God. And you go on, and it always goes back that we're all to blame. It was the same for Israel. It was the same for every believer that's ever lived, that we are to be passing on not only the knowledge of God, right? It's one thing to try to pass on information about God. Now, I can't pass on a relationship with God to my children. They have to choose that for themselves, right? They don't get in just because I'm in, right? They have to choose to have a relationship with Jesus Christ. But here's the thing, what I am responsible for, and what you are responsible for, is telling the next generation, telling others about the goodness of God, telling them about the great things that he's done, the wonders that he's accomplished. Yes, and you notice that all the times that the story of Israel is retold in Scripture, that it always includes the good, the bad, and the ugly. It always includes the moments that they walked by faith, and it includes the moments that they fell flat on their face and completely rebelled and turned against God. And it shows the judgment of God on them, and it shows the wrath of God, but it also shows the mercy of God and the love of God and the grace of God. And that is the picture, right? All of it together, not one single part, but we need to share the whole entire picture with the next generation. We need to retell the story. But one of the other things is you're not writing a new story, right? It's not just tell them a story. It's retell them the story that's already been written. Retell them the story of Scripture. Retell them the story of the gospel. Retell them the story of how you were saved. Retell them the way that you came to faith, saving faith and saving knowledge of Jesus Christ. Retell them of the moment that you realized that God had called you for some specific purpose, and retell them about the moments that you doubted, and retell them about the moments that you failed, but retell them about the moments that God picked you up, that he reached down, as we said Sunday, he reached down in that pit that maybe you were in, and he pulled you out for his divine purposes. We'll tell people stuff all the time. We'll talk about stories. We'll talk about sporting events, right? We'll talk about the Super Bowl coming up. We'll talk about politics, and then we'll talk about sickness, and we'll talk about gossip, and we'll talk about everything under the sun. But we won't tell people about Jesus. You don't have to make up a new story. You don't have to come up with some great illustration. All you need to do is retell what God has done in your life. Let that be an example. Let that be a testimony to what God can do in their life as well if they'll only trust Him on their own. So today, don't just sing, I love to tell the story. Let's join together and sing, I love to retell the story. God bless you, and I pray you have a great, great day.